Wow, love and hesitancy this morning. So we started out, mostly I'm just going to focus on the Matthew story. And you notice that we didn't read the first 17 verses of Matthew. And if you're wondering why we didn't read the first 17 verses of Matthew, that's because you have never read the first 17 verses of Matthew. So if you're still not sure, then I invite you to read the first 17 verses of Matthew. And if you're still not sure why we don't read them, you can come talk. Well, if you're still awake at the end of that, then you can come talk to me about it. So we're going to start here in verse 18, which is like the most unromantic story ever. I mean, if you're waiting for sort of the Hallmark Channel to do this particular story, you're going to be waiting a long, long time. It's also really short. I mean, like, our Christmas program was really short this year, but if we'd done this one, right, we could toss in like all of the relevant parts of Handel's Messiah and still be done in 15 minutes flat. Because this is a really fast story. So, I mean, often it's said that Luke is sort of the women's story, while it's still basically from a man's perspective. At least it talks mostly about Mary and Elizabeth, and Matthew is the guy's story. So this is the story of sort of the story of the birth of Jesus from Joseph's perspective. And it's a strange story. Right? So Mary is found to be with child by the Holy Spirit. What the heck does that even mean? Right? I mean, it's like, oh, it must be the Holy Spirit. It doesn't happen. Certainly, right, lots of women in those days were found to be with child, in the sense of found to be with child because the Roman soldiers, found to be with child because, you know, there was a thief in the house who stayed a little long, found to be with child because some nasty old uncle, right? Found to be with child has happened all the way through history. No matter how much effort is spent protecting young girls, found to be with child still happens. Found to be with child by the Holy Spirit, is that a reframing of something? Or like what? I mean, no matter how we try to make sense of this, what did it mean to Matthew? What did the first Christian church hear? Because we hear Luke when we hear that phrase, but for Matthew and his first audience, they didn't hear Luke, they just heard Matthew. Somehow this made sense to them, I guess. So anyway, Joseph, it says, is a righteous man and is unwilling to expose her to public disgrace, and so planned to dismiss her quietly. How many of you grew up in small towns? Right? What are the chances that could happen in a small town, quietly? Right? I mean, if this happens in a small town, Mary is exposed to public disgrace one way or the other for the next 20 years minimum. Right? Until Joseph is like well out of, or Jesus is well out of the house and gone. But at least he's going to do the righteous thing, sort of according to the standards of the patriarchy of the day. That he's going, this isn't mine, I get that. And so the best I can manage is to do it quietly. Which is sad in some ways, that that's what the best is, he thinks he can manage. But it's better than he could have done. He probably could have had her killed. Doesn't do that. So that's a step forward. Not a big step. Well, it is a big step for her. Right? Still something to be said for being alive. But still he hesitates. It says that, sort of as he was considering this. So that's that's sort of the first time that hesitancy enters our story. That he wants to do what he thinks of as the righteous thing, but he takes his time. He's really not, it's clear he's not sure about this. And we don't know exactly what sort of options he's pondering. Right? Maybe he's pondering, well, let's just, this is the way life is. Let's go on together, Mary and me, because it's better than being alone, and, better than her being alone. Or maybe he's pondering having her killed. We don't know what sort of options he's... No doubt he's getting lots and lots of free advice from his friends and from his parents, because parents tend to give free advice, at times like this. I would. And my kids would ignore it like they should, but I'd still give it. But he hesitates. And part of what we need to sort of see here is that he doesn't believe her. Now, I'm a guy, I realize this, but I tend to give him the benefit of the doubt, because like biology and stuff, if Deb came to me and said she was pregnant with the Holy Spirit, I probably wouldn't believe her either. Go like, no, biology and stuff, dear. Right? So there's a reason he doesn't believe her, but still he doesn't believe her, and still he hesitates. So this particular occasion, God sends an angel. Sort of like cheating, isn't it? Right? It's like, well, we got this moral quandary, and we have these in our lives, where is this the right thing to do, and isn't this the right thing to do, and I don't know about your life, but most of the time the angels are sort of conspicuous by their absence. Now, the other side of this is that Joseph doesn't even get a first-rate angel, he gets a second-rate angel. He gets an angel in the dream. Right? In the stories of Mary, she gets a full-out angel, right, who comes and says, do not be afraid. So we got to imagine the whole flaming sword kind of thing going on with Mary, right, standing in front of her in broad daylight. And then she's going, whoa, right? But he just gets the angel in a dream thing, which I don't think just barely counts. Really, when it comes right down to it, because dreams do. What does a dream mean? And which dreams are real and which dreams are just, because you had the wrong thing to eat last night. Who knows where dreams come from? But still, the angel basically says, you should really believe Mary because she's right on this one. And here's what you're supposed to do. So he gets a little bit of instruction. And then he doesn't hesitate. And then he goes, and it says he takes, get very, right, not very romantic, just sort of takes Mary home to be his wife. There's just so much about this that we just have to fill in with our imagination. So let's do at least a little bit of this. So when we think about home, we need to take our sort of normal 21st century American assumptions and turn them upside down. Because we tend to think about the yard and then the house in the yard, like most of us live in. And in that world, you have to think about it just the opposite way. You have to think about the house and the yard inside. Okay? So if this is our property, we can imagine rooms around the outside. Maybe two-story, maybe single-story, probably most of it single-story, and just a series of rooms. Right? And so this room over here, one of the bigger ones, and this is where the head parents sleep. But this might be your parents, or they might be your uncle and aunt, depends on who's in charge of this family. But right, this is where the father of the household and his wife, and then whatever small children are still part of their household, they sleep here. Right, and over here might be uncles and aunts, right? And over here might be like the girls who are too old to be sleeping with mom but are too young to be married. And then over here are the guys who are too old to be sleeping with mom but too young to be married. And then, over here might be grandparents, right? So we got this series of rooms. And Joseph, because he's been prepared to get married, has been making one of those rooms. He might be like building an addition, right? So as we imagine, right? So in the middle here is just open space, right? They lived their lives basically outdoors in that world. They may have had a large common room somewhere, but it wouldn't have been large by any of your standards or any of our standards. But it would have been, you might have had one, but cooking was done out here over a little fire, and there have been chickens running around and kids running around and goats running around and a little gate at the end of it all. And so this would have been our house. But again, mostly in the outdoor sense of this, and you went inside to go to sleep. Or when it was raining. So anyway, so Joseph has been preparing one of those rooms, or maybe he's had to build a new one on for him and Mary. Or maybe someone has died in the last couple of years and one has been sitting empty. Right? They've been using it as a goat shed, but he's got to clean it up now a little bit, chase the goats out, put a bed in there, right? And then now he's ready. That's the whole, right? And so he's been doing this and assuming probably joyfully, right? First of all, he's looking forward to moving out of the room with his brothers and getting his own room for the first time in his life, right? And getting a wife out of this, and it's all good. It's all good. And then suddenly he gets this word that Mary is pregnant and it's not him. And so then, what does he do now? And then he gets this angel, this dream. So then now he goes and what? From the other perspective, Mary, if she's a typical girl of her generation, let's just assume that for now, has probably been looking forward to her wedding day since she was 2 years old. Because for many peasant village girls, that's like the one day in her entire life that's hers. That the rest of the days are about something else. But this day, this wedding day, looks, that she's been looking forward to is the big celebration. All of her friends are going to come and they're going to party for days on end, and it's going to be about her. This is her big day that she's been looking forward to. And now, does she get one? There's nothing in there about a wedding, but then again, there are not a lot of weddings in the Old Testament anyway. No one else's wedding is mentioned either, except the one in Cana that Jesus sort of goes to, but otherwise we don't get a lot of wedding stories. So we can, if we want, imagine a big celebration, lots of food, all the friends around. Maybe Mary's got a little baby bump by now, but they've all seen this before. It's a small town. Right? And so maybe that happened. But the story is very plain. The story sort of suggests that Joseph just, went to Mary's part of the town and said, "So Mary, I had this angel, and, well, guess I believe you." And then she sort of picked up her 3 things that she owned and moved them into his place, and away they went. And that whole thing maybe just didn't happen for her. Still, again, better than the alternatives. And if he hadn't have done that, she'd have been living the rest of her life with her parents as a disgraced woman, trying to raise a child with all the other kids running around, but no husband. And, eventually, who knows? So we see this as a story of hesitancy at first, because Joseph hesitates to do the right thing. But at least when it comes time to do the loving thing, he doesn't hesitate. When he finally figures out what he's supposed to be doing. I think that's where we need to sort of let the story be. Let the story be our story. That sometimes, when we think we know what the right thing is, maybe it's a good thing to hesitate. And just to say, like, by whose codes is this the right thing? Who's telling me to do this, that this is the right thing to do? Because there's lots of voices out there telling us the right thing to do. But then when we figure out what the loving thing is to do, then we need to stop hesitating. And that's not easy. Because often the loving thing is not the one that's encouraged by our society, by our culture, by our friends, by our parents, sometimes even by one another here in church. Because sometimes doing the loving thing is the hard thing. But that's the call. And that's where I think hesitancy is so often the thing that kills love. That we know the loving thing, but we hesitate, but we pause, but we wait, but we delay. So this morning's story is a call not to do that. Figure out what the loving thing